Venom is a 2018 American superhero film based on the character from Marvel Comics. The first film in Sony's Spider-Man universe, it was directed by Ruben Fleischer from a screenplay by Jeff Pinkner, Scott Rosenberg, and Kelly Marcel. It stars Tom Hardy as Eddie Brock and Venom, alongside Michelle Williams, Riz Ahmed, Scott Hayes, and Reed Scott. In the film, Eddie, a struggling journalist, gains superpowers after becoming the host of Venom, an alien symbiote whose species plans to invade Earth. Following Venom's appearance in Spider-Man 3, 2007, Sony Pictures attempted to develop a spin-off film based on the Venom character, which was stalled due to issues with the company's ongoing Spider-Man franchise. In March 2016, work began on a new version that would start a new shared universe featuring the non-Spider-Man Marvel characters that the studio possessed film rights to. Sony also originally intended for the Venom film to share the world of the Marvel Cinematic Universe film Spider-Man: Homecoming, 2017, but ultimately distanced the film from Spider-Man. Sony's Columbia Pictures produced the film in association with Marvel Entertainment. In March 2017, Rosenberg and Pinkner were set to write, with Fleischer and Hardy added in May. Marcel subsequently joined to rewrite the script. Filming took place from October 2017 to January 2018 in Atlanta, New York City, and San Francisco. The film was primarily inspired by the comic book miniseries Venom: Lethal Protector, 1993, and the story arc Planet of the Symbiotes, 1995. Ludwig Göransson was hired to compose the film's score, marking his second Marvel film after Black Panther, 2018. Venom premiered at the Regency Village Theatre on October 1, 2018, and was released in the United States on October 5. Despite generally negative reviews from critics, Hardy's performance and his character's relationship with Venom were praised, and the film became the seventh highest-grossing film of 2018, earning $856.1 million worldwide and setting several box office records for an October release. Two sequels have been released: Venom: Let There Be Carnage, 2021, and Venom: The Last Dance, 2024. Plot: while exploring space for new habitable worlds, a probe belonging to the bioengineering corporation Life Foundation discovers a comet covered in symbiotic life forms. The probe returns to Earth with 4 samples, but one escapes and causes the ship to crash in Miri. The Life Foundation recovers the other 3 and transports them to their research facility in San Francisco, where they discover that the symbiotes cannot survive without oxygen-breathing hosts, which often fatally reject the symbiosis. Investigative journalist Eddie Brock reads about these human trials in a classified document in the possession of his fiancée Anne Wang, an attorney preparing a lawsuit defense for the Life Foundation. Eddie confronts Life Foundation CEO Carlton Drake about the trials, leading to Eddie and Anne both losing their jobs. Consequently, Anne ends her relationship and engagement with Eddie. 6 months later, Drake's symbiosis trials are closer to success, although one of his symbiotes dies due to carelessness. Eddie is approached by Doris Girth, one of Drake's scientists, who disagrees with his methods and wants to expose him. She helps Eddie break into the research facility to search for evidence, and he learns that an acquaintance of his, a homeless woman named Maria, is one of the test subjects. Eddie attempts to rescue Maria, but the symbiote possessing her transfers to his body without him realizing, leaving her dead. Eddie escapes and soon begins displaying strange symptoms. He reaches out to Anne for help, and her new boyfriend, Dr. Dan Lewis, discovers the symbiote on examining Eddie. Drake exposes Skirth to the remaining captive symbiote, killing both. This leaves the symbiote inside Eddie as the only known surviving specimen. Drake sends mercenaries to retrieve the symbiote from Eddie, but it manifests around his body as a monstrous creature that fights off the attackers. It later introduces itself to Eddie as Venom and explains that the comet is searching for worlds where the symbiotes can possess and devour the inhabitants. Venom offers to spare Eddie if he helps the symbiotes achieve their goal, and Eddie uses the superhuman attributes that the symbiote imbues him with. Eddie breaks into his old workplace to turn in evidence of Drake's crimes but is surrounded by SWAT officers, and sees him transform to escape and takes Eddie to Dan's office, where they explain that the symbiote is rotting Eddie's internal organs. Eddie notes that the symbiote has two weaknesses: high-pitched noises and fire. Although Venom claims the organ damage can be reversed, and uses an MRI machine to separate him from Eddie, whom Drake's men then capture. Meanwhile, the fourth symbiote, Riot, makes its way from Malaysia to San Francisco by hopping from body to body. It bonds with Drake, who agrees to take Riot in a Life Foundation space probe to collect the rest of the symbiotes and bring them to Earth, and reluctantly bonds with Venom so they can free Eddie. When Eddie and Venom are bonded again, the latter promises that it has been convinced to help protect the Earth from his kind through its interactions with Eddie, and the pair attempt to stop Riot and Drake with Ann's help. After a lengthy battle, Venom damages the probe as it takes off, causing it to explode and kill both Riot and Drake. After the incident, Eddie returns to journalism, while Ann believes Eddie is no longer bonded to Venom after this, and that Venom also died in the explosion. However, the pair remain secretly bonded and set out to protect San Francisco by devouring criminals. In a mid-credits scene, Eddie is invited to interview incarcerated serial killer Cletus Cassidy, who promises carnage when he escapes. Cast: Tom Hardy as Eddie Brock/Venom. An investigative journalist who becomes the host of Venom, an alien symbiote that imbues him with superhuman abilities. 678 Director Ruben Fleischer said that unlike a werewolf or Jekyll and Hyde, the relationship between Eddie and the symbiote is a hybrid, with the two characters sharing a body and working together. Hardy was drawn to this duality, and compared the pair to the animated characters Ren and Stimpy. Hardy gave Eddie an "aw shucks" American accent while using a James Brown lounge lizard-like voice for Venom 9 that was later modulated to sound more sinister. 10 Hardy called Eddie an anti-hero who would do whatever he has to accomplish a goal. 8 Brad Venable provided additional voiceover for Venom's pain and grunting sounds, and his voice was combined with Hardy's for some dialogue, such as "We are Venom." 11. Michelle Williams as Ann Weying, an attorney and Eddie's ex-fiancée. 12. 13 Williams was excited at the prospect of her character becoming She-Venom in the future as she does in the comics, and Fleischer felt that it would be fun to give fans an Easter egg of this by briefly showing the character host the symbiote during a scene in the film. This was kept a secret until the release of the film, and Fleischer hoped that the positive response to the appearance would lead to more She-Venom in future Venom films or even a standalone She-Venom film. 14 Ann's line "I love you, but I love myself more" was added by Williams as a reference to the Me Too movement. 15. Riz Ahmed as Carlton Drake/Riot, a genius inventor and leader of the Life Foundation experimenting on the symbiotes. 7-8 Ahmed explained that Drake is trying to save the future of humanity when he discovers the symbiote 8 with Fleischer adding that Drake has a positive goal but a moral ambiguity that leads to him testing his science on other people. 14 Drake is eventually bonded to another symbiote known as Riot, which Fleischer described as a body hopper. 8. Scott Hayes as Roland Treese, Drake's head of security. 16. Reed Scott as Dan Lewis, Ann's new boyfriend, a doctor who tries to help Eddie. 17. Additionally, Jenny Slate portrays Life Foundation scientist Doris Girth. 18 Melora Walters plays Maria, a homeless woman who briefly hosts Venom 19, and Chris O'Hara appears as John Jameson, an astronaut who briefly hosts Riot. 20 Also appearing are Sam Medina as a thug who Venom confronts. 21 Peggy Lou as convenience store owner Mrs. Chen. 22 Michelle Lee as a Malaysian EMT who briefly hosts Riot. 23 Sopaluco and Wayne Peer as Life Foundation scientists. 16 24 Scott Deckard as Eddie's obnoxious neighbor. 25 Emilio Rivera as a security guard Eddie is friends with, and Ron Cephas Jones, uncredited, as Eddie's boss. 26 Woody Harrelson plays Cletus Cassidy in the mid-credits scene. 27 While Stan Lee makes a cameo appearance as a dog walker who talks to Eddie. 28. A clip from the animated film Spider-Man, Into the Spider-Verse, 2018, featuring Shameik Moore as Miles Morales and Jake Johnson as Peter B. Parker, is included after the credits. 29. Production. Development. Early attempts and cancellation. By 1997, David S. Goyer had written a script for a film featuring the Marvel Comics character Venom, which was to be produced by New Line Cinema. 30. Dolph Lundgren was in talks to star in the film 30, which would feature the character Carnage as the main antagonist. 31. The project did not move forward, and the rights to the character moved to Sony Pictures along with those for the character Spider-Man, of whom Venom is an antagonist in the comics. 31. Eddie Brock, the alter ego of Venom, would appear in Sony's Spider-Man 3, 2007, with Topher Grace in the role. 32. Grace was intended to only briefly appear as Eddie 33 but became a major villain as both Eddie and Venom because producer Avi Arad felt the series had relied too much on director Sam Raimi's personal favorite Spider-Man villains, and not characters that modern fans were actually interested in. 34. Raimi had been hesitant to explore the character due to his lack of humanity. 32. Arad revealed plans for a spin-off film focused on Venom in July 2007. 35. Sony was actively developing Venom alongside direct sequels to Spider-Man 3 by July 2008, hoping the character could add longevity to the franchise in a similar fashion to Wolverine in 20th Century Fox's X-Men films. Jacob Estes had written a script for the film, but the studio chose to seek out new writers for a different approach from that draft. Estes's draft centered on Eddie trying to reinvent himself as a hero with the help of a tough waitress named Honey Horowitz. Eddie would have gone up against Cletus Kasady, depicted as an opera-obsessed killer, who becomes Carnage after biting Eddie. Estes wrote the script with Grace in mind to return, while Martin Donovan was his pick for Cletus, and Rashida Jones and Maya Rudolph for Honey. 36. However, Sony was not yet convinced that Grace could serve as the lead actor in the film. 37. That September, Sony hired Paul Wernick and Rhett Reese to write a new script, while industry insiders suggested that Grace should return for the spin-off because the likable actor could be a sympathetic evildoer, in response to Venom co-creator Todd McFarlane suggesting that a Venom film could not do well with a villain as the central character. 38. 39. Wernick and Reese had pitched an original story idea for the film to Sony, which Reese described as a realistic, grounded, a little more dark take on the character. 40. The pair then worked on an outline with Sony and Marvel, who had specific rules about the villain and the backstory and stuff like that. They had completed a draft by April 2009. 41. Which included a role written specifically for Stan Lee. 42. And featured a sequence where the Venom symbiote jumps from body to body through a city, and each person that it inhabits ends up becoming really violent and striking someone else, and then it jumps to them. 40. He was a journalist who got in trouble for it. The whole essence to us for the Marvel characters: stay close to the Bible, stay close to the emotional story, and the rest is fun. Producer Matt Tolmach, on staying true to the character's comic book origins when developing Venom. 43. Wernick and Reese had turned in a second draft by September 2009, and Reese said that Sony was pushing forward in whatever ways they push forward. 44. 45. A month later, Gary Ross, who was rewriting the script for Spider-Man 4 at the time, was hired to also rewrite the Venom script, as well as direct and produce alongside Arad. Grace was not considered likely to return to the role then, with the film starting from the drawing board and looking to make the villain an anti-hero who becomes a defender of the innocent. 46. In January 2010, Sony announced that the Spider-Man franchise would be rebooted after Raimi decided to no longer pursue direct sequels to Spider-Man 3. 47. By March 2012, Sony was still interested in a Venom film and wanted to use it to capitalize on the release of the first reboot film The Amazing Spider-Man, 2012. The studio was in negotiations with Josh Trank to direct after Ross had left the project to direct The Hunger Games, 2012. 48. Trank was brought on following the release of Chronicle, 2012, his directorial debut. He and big fan, 2009, director Robert Siegel pitched an R-rated Venom film in the vein of The Mask, 1994, but producer Matt Tolmach disliked their treatment. 49 in June, Arad and Tolmach discussed Venom connecting to the Amazing Spider-Man, similar to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, MCU, films crossing over in the Avengers, 2012. Arad called it an Eddie Brock story only, but Tolmach added, "Hopefully all these worlds will live together in peace someday." 43. In December 2013, Sony revealed plans to use The Amazing Spider-Man 2, 2014, to establish their own expanded universe based on the Marvel properties the studio had the film rights to, including Venom. Arad and Tolmach would produce the films as part of a franchise brain trust, with Alex Kurtzman, Roberto Orci, and Ed Solomon set to write the screenplay for Venom, and Kurtzman set to direct. 50 In April 2014, Arad and Tolmach said Venom would be released after The Amazing Spider-Man 3, which was set for release on May 27, 2016, but before The Amazing Spider-Man 4. 51 However, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 underperformed, and, with Sony under tremendous pressure to perform, that had them taking a hard look at their most important franchise, the direction of the shared universe was rethought. The Amazing Spider-Man 3 was pushed back to 2018, and the Venom film, now known as Venom Carnage, was moved up to 2017. Kurtzman was still attached to direct, and write alongside Solomon. 52 In February 2015, Sony and Marvel Studios announced a new partnership that would see Marvel Studios produce the next Spider-Man film for Sony, and integrate the character into their MCU. 53 Sony still planned to produce the spin-off films on their own. 52-54 But by November they were believed to have been cancelled so Sony could focus on its new reboot with Marvel Studios. 55. Revival. When he was approached about starring in the film, Tom Hardy was already interested in Venom due to his son's love for the character. 56. Venom was revived by Sony in March 2016, with Arad and Tolmach producing, and Dante Harper writing a new screenplay. The project was envisioned as a standalone film launching its own franchise, unrelated to Sony and Marvel Studios' new Spider-Man films. 57 A year later, Sony gave the film an October 5, 2018, release date, and explained that Kurtzman was not involved with the new project. No new director had been signed, and Scott Rosenberg and Jeff Pinkner were now writing the screenplay. 58 Venom was expected to begin a new shared universe independent of the MCU, and was initially aiming for an R rating on a smaller budget, inspired by 20th Century Fox's success doing so with the X-Men films Deadpool, 2016, and Logan, 2017. 59 Sony's director shortlist for the film was believed to include Adi Shankar, known for his dark, R-rated takes on the properties he grew up on, 60 and Adam Wingard. 61 In May, Sony announced that Tom Hardy would star as Eddie Brock in Venom, to be directed by Ruben Fleischer and officially begin a new shared universe. 62 Later titled Sony's Spider-Man Universe. 63 Fleischer was chosen after a long search by Sony 6 and as a longtime fan of the character expressed excitement at the visual possibilities of portraying Venom on film and the potential thematic ideas associated with the character such as duality. 64 David F. Sandberg met with Sony beforehand to discuss the possibility of directing the film, reading its script and meeting with them, but Sandberg had already been approached by Warner Brothers to make the DC Extended Universe, DCEU, film Shazam. 2019, preferring to direct Shazam over Venom due to that film's crew consisting of people Sandberg had worked with at New Line Cinema. 65 The casting of Hardy, whose son was a big fan of Venom, happened quickly after he left director J.C. Shander's Triple Frontier, 2019, in April, and Sony saw an opportunity to court an in-demand talent. 656 Hardy was paid $7 million for his involvement. 66 Hardy practiced mixed martial arts, boxing, and jiu-jitsu for 5 weeks for the role. 67. Pre-production. Riz Ahmed was in talks to join the film in August 2017. 68 with Matt Smith, Pedro Pascal, and Matthias Schoenaerts all having been considered for the same role. 69 in September, Michelle Williams entered talks to join the film as a district attorney and Eddie's love interest. 70 Tatiana Maslany and Lashana Lynch also auditioned for roles. 71-72 by October, Jenny Slate 73 Reed Scott 74 and Scott Hayes were in negotiations to join as well. 75 with Slate up for a role as a scientist. 73 also at that time, Kelly Marcel was writing the latest draft of the film's script. 76 The final budget that Sony allocated for the film's production was $100 million, though Deadline Hollywood revealed in September 2018 that a deal between Sony and Chinese production company Tencent Pictures meant the latter had ultimately covered a third of these production costs for the studio. 77. Writing and Spider-Man connection. In June 2017, Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige confirmed that Venom was solely a Sony project and Marvel Studios had no plans to connect it with the MCU. 78 However, producer Amy Pascal soon clarified that Sony intended to have their films take place in the same world as the new MCU film Spider-Man: Homecoming, 2017, describing them as adjunct to that world. She said that Venom would connect to the next planned film in their shared universe, Silver and Black, and that there was potential for Tom Holland's Spider-Man to appear in either. 79 Carnage was also expected to appear in Venom at that point. 80 In July, Columbia Pictures president Sanford Panich explained that Sony was not interested in producing conventional comic book movies and was looking to give each film in the series a distinct style. Venom was considered a spin on a horror film, inspired by the works of John Carpenter and David Cronenberg, but with more pop and fun. Fleischer said he has always been drawn to the more anti-hero superheroes. There's a dark element to Venom and a wit that has always appealed to me. He said the film would explore Venom's origins and the Jekyll and Hyde relationship that Eddie has with the symbiote. 81. You're Eddie Brock. I'm the symbiote. Together we are Venom. Director Ruben Fleischer was inspired by this comic quote for the film's depiction of the title character 9. The film is primarily based on the Venom, Lethal Protector miniseries, 1993, and the Planet of the Symbiotes story arc, 1995, 82 borrowing the San Francisco setting of the former. 82 Spider-Man ultimately could not be included in the film because of Sony's deal loaning the character to Marvel Studios. 83 challenging the writers to make a movie with a character that's defined by Spider-Man without Spider-Man. For this reason, they looked to the ultimate Marvel version of Venom whose origin is not tied to Spider-Man for inspiration. 83 Pinkner and Rosenberg were told that Spider-Man could not be in Venom before they made their initial pitch for the film, and took the approach of trying to stay faithful to the spirit of the comics even if certain elements had to be changed, such as having Eddie cross a moral line in his journalism which the character does in his comic book origin story. 83 Fleischer noted that Lethal Protector aided in this goal since it, as the first solo Venom comic book series, had broke the character free from Spider-Man. It also gave the writers a solid foundation to explore the more heroic side of Venom, rather than his more traditional villainous side from the Spider-Man comics. 84 Though Fleischer later described the film as having no heroes. 81 of Venom's lines in the film, eyes, lungs, pancreas, so many snacks, so little time, was lifted unaltered from The Amazing Spider-Man number 374, February 1993. 85. Fleischer stated that they were planning a huge world with many characters while developing the film, including other symbiotes such as the villain Riot. 8. Fleischer wanted Venom to stand out compared to other comic book-based films, and felt that tonally it would not remind viewers of the lighter MCU or the somber DCEU. 10. It was important for him to honor the violence of Venom from the comics, where he bites people's heads off and eats brains. It would be weird to make a movie with Venom if he wasn't doing that. 86 Sony executives were reluctant to push this element so far that the film would earn an R rating, which they believed would cause problems for potential crossovers with the family-friendly Spider-Man, as well as other MCU characters, in future films. 87 Venom was eventually rated PG-13, with the violence toned down. 2. Filming. Principal photography began on October 23, 2017 88 with filming taking place in Atlanta and New York City. 89 Matthew Libatique served as director of photography. 90 while Oliver Scholl served as production designer after also doing so for Spider-Man: Homecoming. 91 Williams was confirmed to have joined the film in November, with Sony organizing her filming schedule to ensure her availability for concurrent, unexpected reshoots on All the Money in the World, 2017. 12 By December, Woody Harrelson was in talks to appear in the film 92 and Williams was revealed to be portraying Anne Weying. 13 According to several reports, Tom Holland spent several days during Venom's production filming a cameo appearance as Peter Parker/Spider-Man for the film 93-94, but Marvel Studios asked Sony to exclude the scene from the final film. 95 Conversely, Adam B. Vary would report in December 2024 that according to one Sony source, Sony was never precluded by Disney from using either the Peter Parker/Spider-Man character nor Holland in Venom and its following films in the franchise, as demonstrated by the Sony Pictures animation feature film Spider-Man: Into the Spider-Verse, 2018, featuring multiple versions of Spider-Man, never happening out of a feeling within the studio that audiences would not accept Holland's version of Spider-Man appearing in non-MCU films, especially after the release of Spider-Man: No Way Home, 2021, and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, 2022, which established the definitive boundaries of the MCU's multiverse. 96. Hardy recorded his lines for the symbiote at the beginning of each day. 97 and these were played back to him through an earpiece on set during scenes where Eddie and the symbiote talked to each other. 10 Hardy had previously used this process when he played twins in Legend, 2015. 97 Fleischer allowed Hardy to improvise on set, and take the scenes where he felt they needed to go. For instance, Hardy noticed that a restaurant set for one scene had a lobster tank in it and decided that his character would get into the tank in the scene. The production design team had to work overnight to reinforce the tank and fill it with fake lobsters so Hardy could get in it the next day. 14 Hardy also worked with Marcel to rewrite some of his dialogue for both Eddie and Venom throughout the filming process. 98 Additional filming took place in San Francisco from January 16 to 26, 2018. Locations included Russian Hill, North Beach, Chinatown, and the Financial District. 99 100 Hardy wrapped filming on January 27. 101. Post-production. Fleischer promoting Venom at San Diego Comic-Con in July 2018. Ahmed and Scott were confirmed to appear in the film in February 2018, and Will Beall was revealed to have done additional writing on the script. 17 In the following months, Sopaluco and Scott Deckard were revealed to be cast in the film. 16 25 Hayes and Harrelson were also confirmed to appear. 16 102 and Ahmed was revealed to be playing Carlton Drake. 7 Harrelson, who previously worked with Fleischer on Zombieland, 2009, signed onto the film for a small role. He described himself as being in a little fraction of this movie, knowing that he would have a bigger part in a potential sequel. 103 The role was revealed to be that of Cletus Kasady, the alter ego of Carnage. 27. The film underwent reshoots in Los Angeles in June 2018. 87 which were reportedly overseen by Hardy. 104 Venom was one of the first films to take advantage of the new post-production facilities at Sony Pictures Stage 6 building in Culver City, California, with 2 new theaters equipped for sound design using Dolby Atmos technology, 2 new stages for sound mixing with Avid Technologies Pro Tools workstations, and a theater set up for remote visual effects and color grading review. 105 Marianne Brandon and Alan Baumgarten served as editors for the film. 106 Fleischer's focus during the editing process was to cultivate the relationship between Eddie and Venom, which he felt was the core of the film. The opening of the film went through several iterations, but Fleischer always wanted it to start with a bang, which led to a spaceship crash in the opening scene. The Venom symbiote is shown shortly after as an introduction of the film's hero, before the villain's plot begins and becomes the focus of the scene. 14. Visual effects and design. DNEG provided the visual effects for the film, with Paul Franklin serving as visual effects supervisor on the Project 107 and Paolo Giandoso drawing concept art for the DNEG design team. Giandoso helped design Venom and Riot, and provided a sequence of 158 drawings for the film's final battle between the two characters. 108. The visual effects team's first step was to define the look of the different symbiotes in the film, which do not have a defined body shape. Franklin explained that they wanted the creatures to be predatory and threatening, and looked at slime molds, jellyfish, and time-lapse photography of amoeba for inspiration. The final models were blobs that could move and change shape, with soft tissue simulated on top to give the creatures an interesting abstract quality. The symbiote is combined with Eddie by adding tentacles to Hardy, which was done through a hybrid of practical and visual effects. 107 The tentacles were inspired by the movement of sea creatures and scientific demonstrations of non-Newtonian fluid. Additional cameras on set accurately captured Hardy's movements so the tentacles could be integrated with his performance. A detailed digital double of Hardy was also used for the integration. 108 other partial Venom forms include the freak-out form for when he is being vibrated out of Eddie, for which a ghostly effect was created by adding an animated version of the character on top of Hardy's performance with a vibration effect, and the Wraith Venom, where Venom's head emerges from Eddie's body to talk to him. This form was closer to the raw symbiote than the final Venom design, with added tendrils and veins to an overall snake-like shape, and an emaciated take on Venom's face. 109. The humanoid Venom character was created with a digital model that included rigs and simulation for the face and muscles. Venom is portrayed as being 7 feet 7 inches, 231 centimeters, tall and weighing 500 pounds, 230 kilograms, with a smooth, oily, black appearance. Due to the differences in the character's facial design comic to comic, and even panel to panel, the designers distilled the essential elements into a design that could be photorealistic. These included the character's eyes, which Franklin compared to those of a killer whale and explained had to be animated in a more exaggerated way to indicate where the character was looking since he does not have pupils. The character's long tongue is also adapted from the comics, with another complex rig required so the tongue could be specifically animated, and then retract to allow the character to talk without having to speak around it, which Franklin said was too comical. 107 When he does speak, Venom often talks through clenched teeth. This was inspired by actors Jack Palance and Clint Eastwood. 108 Since Venom's origin is not tied to Spider-Man in the film, it did not make sense for the filmmakers to add a version of Spider-Man's symbol to Venom's chest as he has in the comics. However, an all-black character would have been difficult to see in night scenes, so Venom has a subtle V symbol on his chest instead, which is formed from the white veins of the symbiote. 98 110 To further help the audience see the character, the visual effects team lit him like they would a car in a commercial, using reflections to help define his body. 111 The character model was flexible, allowing animators to scale Venom's head, adjust the length of his teeth, or even unhinge his jaw like a trapdoor, depending on the pose required. 107 Hardy initially planned to use performance capture to portray Venom on set in addition to Eddie 112, but this idea was abandoned due to the difference between his face and the characters. 113 A 6'10", 208 centimeters, stand-in wearing a helmet for added height was sometimes used on set as a reference for Venom. 111. Because Riot is a minor character from the comics, the designers had more freedom to develop his film appearance. 111 He is a foot taller than Venom, and almost twice as heavy, with a brutal metallic look that Franklin described as almost reptilian. The character model for Riot was similar to the one for Venom, but had less effects layers due to Riot not having the same rippling goo texture. The villain also had a custom set of effects for the different weapons that he can manifest, including blades and a large wrecking ball with spikes. The final fight between the two characters was constantly changing, with Franklin, DNEG, and the previsualization team at the third floor working with Fleischer to develop the fight. One element that was suggested by the visual effects teams was to take advantage of the characters' liquid-like designs by having the two appear to merge and create a swirling mass of symbiotic flesh, with the two humans revealed through the whirlpool. This was inspired by the early tests made while developing the basic symbiote look. 107 When designing the launch pad where the fight is set, Franklin said that it needed to be broad, colorful, and exciting to represent the more comedic and comic book-like style of the film, which he contrasted to his work on Interstellar, 2014, and the concurrent work being done for First Man, 2018. Additional environment work that DNEG completed included the removal of Coca-Cola signs and CNN logos from the Atlanta shot sequences, since San Francisco does not have those. 114 For Anne's brief time as She-Venom, Franklin said that the various depictions of the character in the comics ranged from demonic creatures with elongated teeth through to the extreme hypertrophied female form, with the film's version trying to balance being disgusting and a little bit sexy, particular for when she kisses Eddie. 109 In total, DNEG completed around 1,100 visual effects shots for the film. 111. Music. Main article, Venom, soundtrack. Ludwig Göransson signed on to compose the score for Venom in March 2018, reuniting with Fleischer after the pair worked together on 30 Minutes or Less, 2011. 115 In August, rapper Eminem teased that he had contributed a new song to the soundtrack of the film. 116 His 10th studio album Kamikaze was released at the end of that month, and features a bonus song titled Venom that references the film. 117 118 The song was released as a digital single on September 21st. An album featuring Göransson's score was released digitally by Sony Classical Records on October 5th, with a physical release later that month. 119. Marketing. For the Sony Pictures panel at Comic-Con Experience 2017, Fleischer and Hardy appeared in a video from the film set to promote it. 82 A teaser for the film was released in February 2018. 17 Danny DiPlacido of Forbes called it comically underwhelming. He felt this was a major misstep by Sony given the teaser was meant to win over uninterested Spider-Man fans, particularly after the character's portrayal in Spider-Man 3. 120 The fact that the teaser did not include the title character was a common criticism by commentators. 120 121 122 Sony chairman Tom Rothman later acknowledged this, explaining that the intention had been to heighten anticipation for the film. 7 In August, Fleischer revealed the trailer did not showcase Venom because the visual effects for the character were incomplete at the time. 123. Rothman presented new footage of the film at Cinemacon 2018, and acknowledged that it revealed the film's version of Venom by saying, "See, we didn't forget to put Venom in the movie." 7. DiPlacido was more positive of this trailer, praising the appearance of and visuals for Venom, but being concerned about the dialogue. 124 During the trailer, actress Jenny Slate pronounces the word symbiote as symbiote rather than symbiote, as many commentators believed it should be pronounced. This led to widespread criticism and a 35,700% increase in searches for symbiote pronunciation, according to Merriam-Webster, which noted both pronunciations are technically considered acceptable. 18 Slate uses the expected symbiote pronunciation in the final film 125, which commentators assumed was achieved through reshoots or overdubbing 125-126, but Fleischer explained that the pronunciation had been corrected on set and the marketing team had simply used a take for the trailer from before the correction was made. 126 Hannah Shaw Williams of Screen Rant noted that the trailer reused music from a major, recently released trailer for the Marvel Studios film Avengers: Infinity War, 2018, questioning whether this was a coincidence or if Sony was deliberately trying to tie Venom to the MCU in the minds of audiences. Whatever the reason, Venom will need more than just a familiar piece of trailer music in order to win over audiences. 127 According to Physiology, an analytics company that takes different social media platforms into account, the second trailer was watched 64.3 million times within 24 hours, a 72% increase over the first trailer. Physiology said it was rare for a second trailer to get more views than the first and noted that general positive responses were up 46%. The majority of positive responses were directed towards the appearance and design of Venom. 128. Fleischer, Hardy, and Ahmed promoted the film at the 2018 San Diego Comic-Con, where the audience was given Venom masks and chanted "We are Venom." New footage from the film was debuted at the panel, including the reveal of the villainous symbiote Riot. 8. A third trailer was subsequently released online. It was criticized by Scott Mendelson, also of Forbes, who said the film was looking comparable to Catwoman, 2004, the shining example of how not to do this kind of movie. He also felt that Fleischer's decision to make a sequel to his successful film Zombieland before Venom's release was an indication that the film was not going to be good. 129 Richard Newby, writing for The Hollywood Reporter, felt the film was being marketed as if it was in an earlier era, saying it looks pre-Iron Man cool and more like a cross between an American Werewolf in London, 1981, and Blade, 1998, than a modern superhero film. He noted that despite early fears, the latest trailer showed that Venom would be featured throughout the film, and believed that the film's lack of shared universe connections and distinct tone could help Sony prove it has a handle on these characters after all. 130 A tie-in comic book, serving as both a prequel and a teaser for the film and simply titled Venom, was released digitally by Marvel Comics on September 14, with a physical version available to those who purchased tickets for the film from AMC theaters. Written by Sean Ryan and illustrated by Szymon Kudrynski, the comic establishes the film's backstory for the symbiote. SKAN provided the cover art for the comic. 131. Release. Theatrical. Venom had its world premiere at the Regency Village Theater in Westwood, Los Angeles on October 1, 2018 132 and was theatrically released in the United States and Canada on October 5 in 4,250 theaters. 6277. This followed a release in several other countries on October 3 133 where it was playing on 20,800 screens internationally in its opening weekend, along with 726 IMAX theaters in 60 markets. 134. The film was released in China on November 9, a date that was approved by the country's film board following an unexpected drop in box office sales there earlier in 2018. 135. China granted the film a rare extended theatrical release in December, with the film's box office success and Tencent's large investment in the film considered contributing factors in the decision. 136. The extension added 30 days to the film's initial 30-day run. 137. Home media. Sony Pictures Home Entertainment released a digital version of the film on December 11, 2018, with Ultra HD Blu-ray, and DVD versions released on December 18 in the United States. The physical releases featured deleted and extended scenes, making of featurettes, and a way of watching the film called Venom Mode in which informative pop-ups appear on screen. For these home media releases, The film was framed as a romantic comedy by Sony with a focus on the relationship between Eddie and Venom. 138. In April 2021, Sony signed a deal with Disney giving them access to their legacy content, including Marvel content in Sony's Spider-Man universe, to stream on Disney Plus and Hulu and appear on Disney's linear television networks. Disney's access to Sony's titles would come following their availability on Netflix. 139-140. The film was released on Disney Plus on May 12, 2023, in the United States and later on in Canada on September 8, 2023. 141-142. Reception. Box office. Venom grossed $213.5 million in the United States and Canada, and $642.5 million in other territories, for a total worldwide gross of $856.1 million. For with a production budget between $100 to $116 million, Deadline Hollywood reported that the film needed to gross around $350 million to break even and later calculated the net profit to be $246.9 million, when factoring together all expenses and revenues, making it the sixth most profitable release of 2018. 143. In the United States and Canada, Venom was initially projected to gross $60 to $70 million in its opening weekend. 77. It made $10 million from Thursday night previews, the highest ever for an October release, beating Paranormal Activity 3's $8 million in 2011. After making $32.7 million on its first day, weekend estimates were raised to $80 million. It went on to gross $80.3 million, marking the best October opening weekend of all time, beating Gravity's $55.8 million in 2013, as well as the seventh best opening for a Sony film. The film made $9.6 million on Columbus Day to set the record for the best Monday gross in October, again topping Gravity. 3. The film remained in first the following weekend, dropping 55% to $35.7 million. 144. It finished in third place in its third and fourth weekends behind Halloween and A Star Is Born. 145-146. With the release of more films in its fifth and sixth weekends, Venom fell to, respectively, sixth and eighth place, with the latter carrying the film over $200 million total. 147-148. Worldwide, the film was expected to debut to $160 to $175 million, including $100 to $110 million from 58 territories outside of the US and Canada. 149. It overperformed with $125.2 million from foreign territories for a global opening weekend of $205.5 million, the highest ever in October. It finished first in all countries but one, including South Korea, $16.4 million over its 5-day debut, Russia, $13.6 million, the United Kingdom, $10.5 million, and Mexico, $10.2 million, the best start for a Sony film in the country. The opening included $15.4 million from IMAX, the largest opening for October and Sony in the format. Of that, $7 million was from overseas IMAX screens, the largest overseas IMAX debut. 134. Venom remained the top film worldwide for its second and third weekends. 151 in its second, the film opened at number 1 in France, $6.7 million, Vietnam, $3 million, and Thailand, $2.2 million, and remained number 1 in 51 others, including Brazil, which dropped only 6% from the first weekend. 150. The film was number 1 in 30 markets for the third weekend. 151. It opened in Japan at number 1 with $5.2 million during its fifth weekend, taking the worldwide total to $541.6 million. The film's top overseas markets then, ahead of its release in China, were Russia, $31.6 million, South Korea, $30.1 million, the UK, $25.5 million, Mexico, $23.8 million, and France/Brazil, tied at $18.3 million. 152. The film passed $600 million and became number one worldwide again after opening in China with $111 million. It was Sony's biggest opening in China, the second largest for a superhero film behind Avengers, Infinity War, and the fifth largest for any imported film to the country. $34.9 million came on the Friday, which was the biggest opening day for a solo Marvel film. The 553 IMAX screens in the country made $10 million, the largest November opening for the format in China, and the 8th largest for any month. 153 The film held off new release Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald in its second weekend, which became number one overall, to remain top in China with the best second weekend for a superhero film in the country at $51.2 million. 154 Following this phenomenal performance in China, the film crossed $800 million the next weekend with another $21.3 million from 63 markets, reaching $822.5 million to become the second biggest superhero origin film ever behind Black Panther. 155 At the start of December and following the film receiving an extension for its China release, Mendelsohn wrote that the film had made an insane $262 million in China, and felt that it had outperformed other films such as Crazy Rich Asians in the market due to being more quirky/weird with some camp classic so bad it's good stylings that those other films did not have. 156. Critical response. The review aggregation website Rotten Tomatoes reports an approval rating of 31% based on 365 reviews and an average rating of 4.5/10. The website's critical consensus reads, "Venom's first standalone movie turns out to be like the comics character in all the wrong ways, chaotic, noisy, and in desperate need of a stronger attachment to Spider-Man." 157. Metacritic, which uses a weighted average, assigned the film a score of 35 out of 100, based on 46 critics, indicating generally unfavorable reviews. 158 critics generally criticized the film for its dullness, finding its plot messy and tone incoherent. Hardy's performance as Eddie received mixed reviews, though the character's relationship with Venom was praised. 159 160 161 162. Reviewing the film for Variety, Owen Gleiberman called it a textbook case of a comic book film that's unexciting in its ho-hum competence, and even its visual effects bravura. He criticized Hardy's performance as acting like a stumblebum method goof, and felt the film spent too long on Venom's origin story when it should have been what a sequel likely will be. He added that the film may not be as bad a start to a new shared universe as The Mummy, 2017, but it could turn out to be a similar case of a franchise kickoff that doesn't fully attain franchise liftoff. 163 Ty Burr of the Boston Globe scored the film 1.5 stars and said it saps the life force of almost everyone in it, including Hardy, Williams, and Ahmed, all of whose performances he criticized. He also criticized Fleischer's direction as unfocused and Libatique cinematography as some of the dingiest of 2018, but did feel that the scenes where Hardy and Venom talk while sharing a body were reasonably amusing. 164 Mark Daniel at the Toronto Sun criticized the film's tone, effects, and characters, compared it to a rejected superhero film treatment from the 1990s, and said it was the worst Marvel film released since Elektra, 2005. 165. Like Burr, Soren Anderson of the Seattle Times also gave the film 1.5 stars, calling it perhaps the worst Marvel-derived origin story ever, and criticizing the close to an hour of tedium before Venom appears in the film. Anderson also said that Hardy was usually excellent, but not this time, and called the action sequences generic. 166 At the Toronto Star, Peter Howell gave Venom 2 out of 4 stars and said that Hardy's performance prevented it from being an unwatchable disaster, but he still thought the film was a mess with an inconsistent tone, bog-level computer effects and washed-out colors resembling those of a 1998 sci-fi movie on a VHS tape that's been left out in the sun. 167 Jake Coyle for the Associated Press found the film to be kind of a hoot despite it being an incoherent mess of tones, acting styles, and visual effects. He was particularly positive about the film's differences from other Marvel films, and of how Hardy pushed it to be more comedic seemingly against Fleischer's intentions. On Hardy's performance, Coyle was not sure whether it adds up to anything in Venom. But it's something to behold. Train wrecks like these aren't supposed to be this entertaining. 168. David Adelstein at Vulture said Hardy was the only reason to watch the film, and felt having Eddie and Venom share a body was a good gimmick that was executed better by Steve Martin in All of Me, 1984. He also thought that Williams and Slate were wasted in their respective roles in the film, and that Fleischer's direction was competent and unmemorable. 169 Writing for Salon, Matthew Rosas said that he actually liked the film, and might have loved it if not for the sloppy and formulaic script. He felt the depiction of Venom was more worthy to be seen in a film than the version in Spider-Man 3, and praised Hardy's performance as wicked fun. Rosas especially liked that the film did not take itself too seriously and did not attempt to set up an entire shared universe on its own, positively comparing it to the sort of superhero film that would have been made before the release of the MCU's Iron Man. 170 times Stephanie Zacharek described the film as neither the most super awesome Marvel movie nor the worst, criticizing the action and small roles of Williams and Slate, but praising the design of the symbiotes as kind of neat to look at and Hardy's performance as fun to watch. 171. Audience response. Audiences polled by CinemaScore gave the film an average grade of B+ on an A+ to F scale, and those at Post-Track gave it an 80% positive score, while the social media monitor Relish Mix noted online responses to the film were mixed, leaning positive. During the film's opening week, most audience members surveyed by Fandango wanted to see the film because it featured a Marvel antihero, because it had the potential to cross over with Spider-Man, or because they were fans of Hardy. 3. Symbiote shipping. After seeing the film, Kate Gardner of the Mary Sue wondered whether it had been queer-coded. 172 A term referring to characters appearing queer without their sexuality being a part of the story. 173 Gardner soon noticed fan art depicting Eddie and Venom as a couple appearing across social media sites. She acknowledged that there were several moments throughout the film that implied such a relationship, including Venom deciding to turn against his species because of his time spent with Eddie and Venom deciding to French kiss Eddie when it is transferring from Anne's body to Eddie's. Gardner felt that these elements made it more logical for fans to ship the two characters than some similar pairings that had become popular on the internet. 172 Many of the fans posting the art and discussing the characters' relationship online began using the name Symbiote to refer to them. 174. Tumblr's Fandometrics analysis team, led by Senior Content Insights Manager Amanda Brennan, looked at original posts, likes, reblogs, and comments across the website's 440 million blogs, and reported that Symbiote was the most used ship name during the week ending October 15. It was also the 8th most popular topic overall, while Venom itself was the most popular topic. Brennan said that fans of Symbiote existed before the film due to the nature of the comics, but the increase in popularity was undoubtedly due to the film's portrayal of the characters, which she said made Venom's dialogue more casual, compared to how he speaks in comics, which kind of makes it more approachable and easier to turn the symbiote into something cute. Brennan added that dialogue such as "I am Venom and you are mine" was deemed to be particularly romantic by these fans, as was the idea that Venom be seen not as a parasite but as someone who chose Eddie Brock and has a connection to Eddie Brock. 175 According to Fandometrics, Simbrock remained the most popular shipping name on Tumblr for the weeks ending October 22, 176, October 29, 177, November 5, 178, and November 12, 179, before falling to third place during the week ending November 19, 180 in its list of the top 100 shipping names of 2018, released on November 28. Fandometrics listed Simbrock in 14th place. 181. When Sony began advertising the home media release of the film by presenting it as a romantic comedy focused on Eddie and Venom's relationship, 138 IO9's Charles Pouliamore said it was the treatment that the film deserved, and attributed the change in strategy from the studio to the audience's response to the relationship. He added that it was rare for a film studio to get on top of a so-so ad campaign by adjusting towards the public's reaction to a movie, and that he believed it to have been successful. 182 Michael Walsh at Nerdist concurred with Pouliamore, describing the move as fully embracing Simbrock and calling it brilliant. Walsh said that though the advertisement was clearly a parody, it also feels like a far more accurate portrayal of what the movie was really like than the initial marketing hinted at, and further highlighted the kissing scene. 183. Accolades. Accolades received by Venom. Award date of ceremony, category recipient, S, result Rev. Los Angeles Online Film Critics Society Awards, January 9, 2019. Best Visual Effects or Animated Performance, Tom Hardy nominated. 184. Visual Effects Society Awards, February 5, 2019. Outstanding Effects Simulations in a Photoreal Feature, Aharon Borland, Jordan Walsh, Aleksandar Chelyovsky, Federico Frassinelli nominated. 185. Taurus World Stunt Awards, May 11, 2019. Best Work with a Vehicle, Jack Gill, Henry Kingy Sr., Jalil J. Lynch, Denny Pears, and Jimmy N. Roberts won. 186. Best Specialty Stunt, Joe Dryden and Jimmy N. Roberts nominated. Best Stunt Coordinator and / or Second Unit Director, Andy Gill, Jack Gill, Chris O'Hara, and Spiro Rosatos nominated. Golden Trailer Awards, May 29, 2019. Best Action TV Spot Control, Wild Card, nominated. 187. Best Voice-Over TV Spot Control, Wild Card, nominated. Best Wild Posts, LA/Lindemann Associates, nominated. MTV Movie and TV Awards, June 17, 2019. Best Kiss, Tom Hardy and Michelle Williams, Eddie Brock and Venom. And Weighing, nominated. 188. Sequels. Main articles: Venom, Let There Be Carnage, and Venom, The Last Dance. A sequel, Venom, Let There Be Carnage, was released on October 1, 2021. 189 Hardy, Harrelson, and Williams reprised the roles in the film, while Fleischer did not return due to his commitments of directing Zombieland, Double Tap, 2019. Marcel was hired as writer. 190 Andy Serkis was hired to direct in August 2019. 191 Fleischer said he was happy to let Serkis take over following the negative critical reaction that Venom received. Fleischer believed reviewers had been unfair to the crowd-pleasing movie, potentially due to biases against Sony and towards Marvel Studios' rival superhero films. 192. In December 2021, Pascal said they were in the planning stages of Venom 3. 193 Sony confirmed the film was in development at Cinemacon in April 2022. 194 In June, Hardy revealed that Marcel was writing the script after previously working on the prior Venom films, and that he was co-writing the story with her. 195 That October, Marcel was set to make her directorial debut with the film and also produced it. 196 Venom, The Last Dance was released on October 25, 2024. Edward Thomas Hardy, born September 15, 1977, is an English actor. After studying acting at the Drama Centre London, he made his film debut in Ridley Scott's Black Hawk Down in 2001. He had supporting roles in the films Star Trek, Nemesis, 2002, and Rock'n'Rolla, 2008, and went on to star in Bronson, 2008, Warrior, 2011, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, 2011, Lawless, 2012, This Means War, 2012, and Locke, 2013. In 2015 he starred as Mad Max Rocketinsky in Mad Max, Fury Road and both Cray twins in Legend, and was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for his role in The Revenant. Hardy appeared in 3 Christopher Nolan films, Inception, 2010, The Dark Knight Rises, 2012, and Dunkirk, 2017. He has since starred as the title character in the film Venom, 2018, and its 2 sequels, 2021 and 2024. Hardy's television roles include the HBO war miniseries Band of Brothers, 2001, the BBC historical drama miniseries The Virgin Queen, 2005, Bill Sikes in the BBC's miniseries Oliver Twist, 2007, Heathcliff in ITV's Wuthering Heights, 2009, and Alfie Solomons in the BBC crime drama series Peaky Blinders, 2014 to 2022. He also created, co-produced and took the lead in the historical fiction miniseries Taboo, 2017. Hardy has performed on both British and American stages. He was nominated for a Laurence Olivier Award for his role in the production of In Arabia We'd All Be Kings, 2003. He has also starred in productions of The Man of Mode, 2007, and The Long Red Road, 2010. Hardy is active in charity work and is an ambassador for the Prince's Trust. 1-2 He was appointed a CBE in the 2018 Birthday Honours for services to drama. 3-4. Early life and education. Edward Thomas Hardy was born in Hammersmith, London 5 on September 15, 1977, 6-7, the only child of N. née Barrett, an artist and painter, and the novelist and comedy writer Edward Chips Hardy. 8, 9, 10 He is of Irish descent on his mother's side. 11 He was raised in London's East Sheen suburb. 12 Hardy attended Tower House School, Reed School, and Duff Miller Sixth Form College. He later studied at Richmond Drama School and the Drama Centre London, now a part of Central St Martin's. 13, 14 He has named the actor Gary Oldman, with whom he would later work on Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, as his hero, and added that he mirrored scenes from Oldman while at drama school. 15, 16 Career 1998 to 2010, early roles and breakthrough. Hardy at the London premiere of Inception in 2010. In 1998 Hardy won the Big Breakfast's Find Me a Supermodel competition at the age of 21, although the program said he was 20, earning him a brief contract with Models 1. 17 Hardy joined Drama Centre London in September 1998, and was taken out early after winning the part of the United States Army Private John Janovic in the HBO BBC miniseries Band of Brothers. 18 He made his feature film debut in Ridley Scott's war thriller Black Hawk Down, 2001. 19 During this time, Hardy also had a brief stint as a rapper and hip-hop producer with his friend Edward Tracy, under the name Tommy No. 1 plus Eddie Too Tall, with whom he recorded a mixtape called Falling on Your Arse in 1999 that remained unreleased until 2018. 20. In 2002 Hardy appeared as the Reman-Peter Shinzen, a clone of USS Enterprise Captain Jean-Luc Picard in Star Trek, Nemesis. 21 The following year, he appeared in the film The Eye, and then traveled to North Africa for Simon, an English legionnaire, a story of the French Foreign Legion. He then returned to the United Kingdom to feature in the horror film LD50 Lethal Dose, 2003. 22. Hardy was awarded the 2003 London Evening Standard Theatre Award for Outstanding Newcomer for his performances in Blood and In Arabia We'd All Be Kings, performed at the Royal Court Theatre and Hampstead Theatre. 23. He was also nominated for a 2004 Laurence Olivier Award for Most Promising Newcomer of 2003 in a Society of London Theatre affiliate for his performance as Skank in the aforementioned production of In Arabia We'd All Be Kings. 24. Hardy appeared with Emilia Fox in the BBC miniseries The Virgin Queen, 2005, as Robert Dudley, a childhood friend of Elizabeth I. Dudley's character has been described as an ambiguous young man who is torn between the affection of his wife, played by Fox, his love for Elizabeth, and his own ambitions. 25. Hardy featured in the BBC 4 adaptation of the 1960s science fiction series A for Andromeda. 26. Hardy in 2014. In 2007 he appeared in BBC Two's drama based on a true story Stuart, A Life Backwards. He played the lead role of Stuart Shorter, a homeless man who had been subjected to years of abuse and whose death was possibly a suicide. 27. The same year he played Bill Sykes in the BBC miniseries Oliver Twist, an adaptation of Charles Dickens's novel that aired on PBS Masterpiece Classic in the US. In February 2008 he played a drug-addicted rapist in the British horror thriller W Delta Z. 28. In September 2008 he appeared in Guy Ritchie's London gangster film, Rock'n'Rolla. Hardy played the role of the gay gangster Handsome Bob. 29. In 2008 Hardy starred in the film Bronson, about the English prisoner Charles Bronson, who has spent most of his adult life in solitary confinement. For the film, he put on 3 stone, 42 pounds or 19 kilograms. 30. In June 2009 Hardy starred in Martina Cole's 4-part TV drama The Take on Sky One as a drug and alcohol-fueled gangster. The role gained him a Best Actor nomination at the 2009 Crime Thriller Awards. 31. In August 2009 he appeared in ITV's Wuthering Heights, playing the role of Heathcliff. 32-33. In early 2010 Hardy starred in The Long Red Road at the Goodman Theatre in Chicago, U.S. 34. The play was written by Brett C. Leonard and directed by Philip Seymour Hoffman. Hardy won some good reviews for his portrayal of Sam, an alcoholic trying to drink away his past. 35-36. In 2010 he starred as Eames in Christopher Nolan's science fiction thriller Inception, for which Hardy won a BAFTA Rising Star Award. Hardy replaced Michael Fassbender in the 2011 film adaptation of Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy 37 which premiered at the Venice International Film Festival. In March 2010 Hardy signed a first-look deal at Warner Bros. 38. 2011 to 2017, Hollywood stardom. In 2011 Hardy appeared in the film Warrior, which was released on September 9, 2011 by Lionsgate Films. His performance as Tommy Riordan, who is trained by his father to fight in a mixed martial arts tournament against his brother, gained praise from critics. Hardy also starred in This Means War, 2012, a romantic comedy directed by McG. He played the supervillain Bane in The Dark Knight Rises, the final film in Nolan's The Dark Knight trilogy, released on July 20, 2012. 39. He played a bootlegger in John Hillcoat's crime drama Lawless, 2012. 40. Hardy signed up to play the lead role of Sam Fisher in Ubisoft's film adaptation of their video game series Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell. 41-42. He also appeared in Riz Ahmed's music video for the song Sour Times. 43. In 2013 Hardy starred in the drama film Lock. 44. In 2014 he appeared in the crime film The Drop alongside James Gandolfini, in what would be Gandolfini's final appearance in a feature film before his death. Hardy also joined the cast of the BBC crime drama Peaky Blinders in its second series. He portrays Alfie Solomons, who is based on a real-life East End Jewish gangster named Alfred Solomon, the head of a Jewish gang based in Camden Town, and the runner of a distillery which disguises itself as a bakery. 45. Writing for Medium, Shani Silver described Hardy's portrayal of Alfie Solomons as the scene-stealingest character of all time, commenting that I've never understood if Alfie was meant to be a villain or comedic foil or some piqué mix of both, but I've never loved every second of someone's screen time more. 46. Hardy, right, with George Miller and Charlize Theron at the 2015 Cannes Film Festival. Hardy starred in 5 films in 2015. The first, Child 44, set in 1950s Soviet Union, saw him playing Leo Demidov, a Soviet secret police agent who investigates a series of child murders. Despite mild praise for his acting, Child 44 was reviewed negatively by critics and was a box office failure. 47. Hardy then played the title character, Max Rokitansky, in the action film Mad Max, Fury Road, 2015. 48-49. His performance was praised by critics 50-51 and overall the film received critical acclaim and became a box office success, 52, grossing over $378 million against a $150 million budget, becoming the highest grossing film in the Mad Max franchise. 53. He played a dual role as London gangsters Reggie and Ronnie Kray in the crime thriller Legend, 2015. 54. On December 7, 2015, Hardy won Best Actor at the British Independent Film Awards for his portrayal of the Kray twins, and on the same night attended the premiere of the biographical Western thriller The Revenant, in which he reunited with his Inception co-star Leonardo DiCaprio at Leicester Square, London. 55. On January 14, 2016, Hardy received his first Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor for his performance in The Revenant. 56. Hardy played a Royal Air Force fighter pilot in Nolan's action thriller Dunkirk, 2017, based on the British military evacuation of the French port of Dunkirk in 1940 during the Second World War. He appeared alongside Mark Rylance, Kenneth Branagh, Cillian Murphy, and Harry Styles. 57. Hardy also co-produced and starred in the 8-part BBC One television drama series Taboo. It was created by Hardy, Stephen Knight, and Hardy's father, Edward Chips Hardy. Taboo was aired in the United States by FX. 58. 2018 to 2025, Venom Films and Beyond. In 2018, Hardy starred in the film Venom as the title comic book sometime hero, Eddie Brock, and the symbiote Venom. 59. 60. Based on the Marvel source material, the film was released on October 5, and is the first installment in Sony's Spider-Man universe. In 2019, Hardy served as an executive producer in the 2019 BBC/FX 3-part miniseries A Christmas Carol. 61. 62. In 2020, Hardy starred in Josh Trank's Al Capone biographical film Capone. 63. Hardy is attached to star as the British war photographer Don McCullin in a film based on McCullin's autobiography, Unreasonable Behavior. 64. Hardy reprised the role of Eddie Brock and Venom in the sequel Venom, Let There Be Carnage, and co-wrote the story for the film. 65. He is also slated to star as the Antarctic explorer Sir Ernest Shackleton in a biopic being created by the same makers of Taboo. 66. The Shackleton film, which will cover one of the most harrowing stories of survival in exploration history, is also being produced by Hardy's production company Hardy Son and Baker. 66. In May 2024, he and Marshala Ali were announced to be working on the crime thriller 77 Blackout. The Venom film franchise ended in October 2024 with Venom: The Last Dance. 67. Currently, Hardy stars in Guy Ritchie's Mobland, which premiered March 30, 2025 on Paramount+. It features Pierce Brosnan and Helen Mirren as heads of the Harrigan crime family. 68. Hardy also starred in the Netflix film Havoc. Philanthropy. In 2010, Hardy became an ambassador for the Prince's Trust, a British youth charity which provides training, personal development, business startup support, mentoring, and advice. 69. In 2012, he and his then-girlfriend, now wife, Charlotte Riley became patrons of Bowel Cancer UK. 70. Prior to the inaugural Invictus Games held in London in September 2014, he, along with other entertainers and athletes, read the poem Invictus in a promotional video. 71. Personal life. Hardy married Sarah Ward, a producer, in 1999, and they divorced in 2004. 72 He met and began dating the assistant director Rachel Speed on the set of The Virgin Queen in 2005, and they later had a son 73 before separating in 2009. 74 That year, he began a relationship with the actress Charlotte Riley after they met on the set of Wuthering Heights, and they were married in July 2014. 75 Together they have 2 children, a son born in October 2015 and a son born in December 2018. They had 1 rescue dog, Woodstock, and Hardy appeared with Woodstock in a PETA advertisement to promote pet adoption. 76 Woodstock died on June 5, 2017 due to an aggressive case of polymyositis at 6 years old. 77. Hardy spent much time in his youth drinking alcohol and using crack cocaine to cope with stresses and has suffered significant bouts of dysthymia. He has previously said that he was out of control with his alcohol and drug use before going to rehabilitation in 2003. 78 79 80. While portraying the prisoner Charles Bronson during the production of Bronson, Hardy met Bronson several times and the two became friends. Bronson was impressed with how Hardy managed to match his muscularity and how well he could mimic Bronson's personality and voice, stating that he believed Hardy was the only person who could play him. He also shaved off his trademark mustache and sent it to Hardy in the hopes that Hardy would wear it in the film. 81 According to Bronson's son, George Bambi, Hardy was banned from visiting Bronson in prison following the film's release. 82. An avid practitioner of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, he has won a number of Jiu-Jitsu competitions 83, 84, 85 with one such occurrence being at the UMAC Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Open Championships in September 2022. 86 He is the lead ambassador for the reorged Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Foundation. 87 A Royal Marines-backed charity allowing current and former military personnel to learn the martial art as part of their recovery and to combat physical and mental challenges. 88 Hardy was promoted to purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu on June 19, 2023. 89. In October 2023 Hardy signed the Artists for Ceasefire open letter to U.S. President Joe Biden, calling for a permanent ceasefire in the Gaza war, the release of all hostages, and the delivery of life-saving aid to civilians in Gaza. Michelle Ingrid Williams, born September 9, 1980, is an American actress. Known primarily for starring in small-scale independent films with dark or tragic themes, she has received various accolades, including 2 Golden Globe Awards and a Primetime Emmy Award, in addition to nominations for 5 Academy Awards and a Tony Award. Williams, daughter of politician and trader Larry R. Williams, began her career with television guest appearances and made her film debut in the family film Lassie in 1994. She gained emancipation from her parents at age 15, and soon achieved recognition for her leading role as Jen Lindley in the teen drama television series Dawson's Creek, 1998 to 2003. This was followed by low-profile films, before having her breakthrough with the drama film Brokeback Mountain, 2005, which earned Williams her first Academy Award nomination. Williams received critical acclaim for playing emotionally troubled women coping with loss or loneliness in the independent dramas Wendy and Lucy, 2008, Blue Valentine, 2010, and Manchester by the Sea, 2016. She won Golden Globes for portraying Marilyn Monroe in the drama My Week with Marilyn, 2011, and Gwen Verdon in the miniseries Fa/Verdon, 2019, in addition to a Primetime Emmy Award for the latter. Her highest-grossing releases came with the thriller Shutter Island, 2010, the fantasy film Oz the Great and Powerful, 2013, the musical The Greatest Showman, 2017, and the superhero films Venom, 2018, and Venom, Let There Be Carnage, 2021. Williams has also led major studio films, such as Ridley Scott's thriller All the Money in the World, 2017, and Steven Spielberg's drama The Fabelmans, 2022. In 2025, She starred as Molly Cochin in dramedy miniseries Dying for Sex, 2025, earning her another nomination for a Primetime Emmy Award. On Broadway, Williams starred in revivals of the musical Cabaret in 2014 and the drama Blackbird in 2016, for which she received a nomination for the Tony Award for Best Actress in a Play. She is an advocate for equal pay in the workplace. Consistently private about her personal life, Williams has a daughter from her relationship with actor Heath Ledger and was briefly married to musician Phil Elverum. She has 3 children with her second husband, theater director Thomas Kail. Life and career. 1980 to 1995, early life. A bird's eye view of the city of Kalispell, Montana. The city of Kalispell, Montana, where Williams was born. Michelle Ingrid Williams I was born on September 9, 1980, in Kalispell, Montana, to Carla, a homemaker, and Larry R. Williams, an author and commodities trader. 2-3 She has Norwegian ancestry and her family has lived in Montana for generations. 4-5 Her father twice ran unsuccessfully for the United States Senate as a Republican Party nominee. 3 In Kalispell, Williams lived with her 3 paternal half-siblings and her younger sister, Paige. 6 Although she has described her family as not terribly closely knit, she shared a close bond with her father, who taught her to fish and shoot, and encouraged her to become a keen reader. 7 8 9 Williams has recounted fond memories of growing up in the vast landscape of Montana. 10 When she was 9, the family moved to San Diego, California. 6 She has said of the experience, "It was less happy probably by virtue of it being my preteen years, which are perhaps unpleasant wherever you go." 10 She mostly kept to herself and was self-reliant. 11 She said that growing up, she had a connection with Judaism due to being raised around San Diego Jewish families. 12 Williams became interested in acting at an early age when she saw a local production of The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. 13 She performed in an amateur production of the musical Annie, and her parents would drive her from San Diego to Los Angeles to audition for parts. Her first screen appearance was as Bridget Bowers, a girl who tries to date Mitch Buchanan's son, Hobie, in a 1993 episode of the television series Baywatch. 7/14/15 The following year, she made her film debut in the family feature Lassie, about the bond between the titular dog and a young boy, played by Tom Gyrie. Williams played the love interest of Gyrie's character, which led the critic Stephen Gatiss to take notice of her winning perf. 16/17 She next took on guest roles in the television sitcom Step by Step and Home Improvement, and appeared as the child form of Syl, an alien played in adulthood by Natasha Henstridge, in the 1995 science fiction film Species. 18-19-20 By 1995, Williams had completed 9th grade at Santa Fe Christian Schools in San Diego. 21 She disliked going there as she did not get along well with other students. To focus on her acting pursuits, she left the school and enrolled in in-home tutoring. 11-22-23 At age 15, with her parents' approval, Williams filed for emancipation from them 24 so she could better pursue her acting career with less interference from child labor work laws. 3/25 To comply with the emancipation guidelines, she completed her high school education in 9 months through correspondence. 13/23 She later regretted not getting a proper education. 23. 1996 to 2000, Dawson's Creek and transition to adult roles. Following her emancipation, Williams moved to Los Angeles and lived by herself in Burbank. 8-9 She said of her initial experience in the city, "There are some really disgusting people in the world, and I met some of them." 9. To support herself, she took assignments in low-budget films and commercials. 8 She had minor roles in the television films My Son is Innocent, 1996, and Killing Mr. Griffin, 1997, and the drama 8,000 Acres, 1997, which starred Michelle Pfeiffer and Jessica Lange. 26-27-28 Williams later described her early work as embarrassing, saying she had taken those roles merely to support herself as she didn't have any taste or ideals. 8 In 1997, unhappy with the roles she was being offered, Williams collaborated with 2 other actors to write a script titled Blink, about prostitutes living in a Nevada brothel, which despite being sold to a production company was never made. 29:30 Having learned to trade under her father's guidance, a 17-year-old Williams entered the Robins World Cup Championship, a futures trading contest. With a return of 1000%, she became the first woman to win the title and the 3rd highest winner of all time. Her father ranks first. 31:32:33. A photograph of Cape Fear Memorial Bridge in Wilmington, North Carolina. Williams filmed Dawson's Creek, 1998 to 2003, in Wilmington, North Carolina, where she also lived during that time period. In 1998, Williams began starring in the teen drama television series Dawson's Creek, created by Kevin Williamson and co-starring James Van Der Beek, Katie Holmes, and Joshua Jackson. The series aired for 6 seasons from January 1998 to May 2003 and featured her as Jen Lindley, a precocious New York-based teenager who relocates to the fictional town of Capeside. The series was shot in Wilmington, North Carolina, where she lived for the 6 years of filming. 34 Reviewing the first season for the New York Times, Karen James called it a soap opera that was redeemed by intelligence and sharp writing but found Williams to be too earnest to suit this otherwise shrewdly tongue-in-cheek cast. 35 Ray Richmond of Variety labeled it an addictive drama with considerable heart and considered all 4 leads appealing. 36 The series was a ratings success and raised Williams's profile. 9:34 Her first film release since the debut of Dawson's Creek was the Jamie Lee Curtis starring slasher picture Halloween H20, 20 years later, 1998, the 7th installment in the Halloween film series in which she played one of several teenagers traumatized by the murderer Michael Myers. 37 It grossed $55 million domestically against its $17 million budget. 38. Williams credited Dawson's Creek as the best acting class, but also admitted to not having fully invested herself in the show as my taste was in contradiction to what I was doing every single day. 18:29:39. She would film the series for 9 months each year and spend the remaining time playing against type in independent features, which she considered a better fit for her personality. 30:39 She said the financial stability of a steady job empowered her to act in such films. 40 Williams found her first such role in the comedy Dick, 1999, a parody of the Watergate scandal, in which she and Kirsten Dunst played teenagers obsessed with Richard Nixon. 8:30 Praising the film's political satire, Lisa Schwartzbaum of Entertainment Weekly credited both actresses for playing their roles with screwball verve. 41 Dick failed to recoup its $13 million investment. 42 In the same year Williams played a small part in But I'm a Cheerleader, a satirical comedy about conversion therapy. 43. Keen to play challenging roles in adult-oriented projects, Williams spent the summer of 1999 starring in an off-Broadway play titled Killer Joe. 44-45 Written by Tracy Letts, it is a black comedy about a dysfunctional family who kills their matriarch for insurance money. She was cast as the family's youngest daughter. The production featured gruesome violence and required Williams to perform a nude scene. 7 Her socially conservative parents were displeased with it, but she said she found it cathartic and freeing. 7:30-46 Her next role was in the HBO television film If These Walls Could Talk Too, 2000, a drama about 3 lesbian couples in different time periods. Williams signed on to the project after ensuring that a sex scene with co-star Chloe Sevigny was pertinent to the story and not meant to titillate. 46 In a mixed review of the film, Ken Tucker criticized Williams for overplaying her character's eagerness. 47 When asked about playing a series of sexual roles, she stated, "I don't think of any of them as sexy, hot girls. They were just defined at an early age by the fact that others saw them that way." 9. She subsequently made an effort to play roles that were not sexualized. 7. 2001 to 2005, Independent Films and Brokeback Mountain. The British film Me Without You, 2001, about an obsessive female friendship, starred Williams and Anna Friel. Williams played Holly, an insecure bibliophile, a part that came close to her personality. 9. The writer-director Sandra Goldbacher was initially reluctant to cast an American in a British part but was impressed by Williams's self-deprecating humor and a European stillness. 9. Roger Ebert praised Williams's British accent and found her to be cuddly and smart both at once. 48. Williams returned to the stage the following year in a production of Mike Leigh's farce Smelling a Rat. 49. Her part, that of a scatterbrained teenager exploring her sexuality, led Carl Levitt of Backstage to label her a first-class creative comedienne. 50. She played a supporting role in the Christina Ricci starring Prozac Nation, a drama about depression based on Elizabeth Wurtzel's memoir. 51. Dawson's Creek completed its run in 2003, and Williams was satisfied with how it had run its course. She relocated to New York City soon after. 52. She had supporting parts in 2 art house films that year, the drama The United States of Leland and the comedy drama The Station Agent. In the former, starring Ryan Gosling, she played the grieving sister of a murdered boy. It was described by the Globe and Mail's Liam Lacey as neither an insightful nor well-made film. 53. The Station Agent, about a lonely dwarf, played by Peter Dinklage, featured Williams as a librarian who develops an attraction towards him. Critically acclaimed, the film's cast was nominated for the Screen Actors Guild Award for Outstanding Performance by a Cast. 54. 55. On stage, Williams played Varia in a 2004 production of Anton Chekhov's drama The Cherry Orchard, alongside Linda Emmond and Jessica Chastain, at the Williamstown Theatre Festival. 56. The theater critic Ben Brantley credited her for cannily playing her natural vibrancy against the anxiety that has worn the young Varia into a permanent high-strung sullenness. 57. A headshot of Heath Ledger as he looks away from the camera. Williams and Heath Ledger, pictured, began dating in 2004 while filming Brokeback Mountain. She gave birth to their daughter the next year. 22. German filmmaker Wim Wenders wrote the film Land of Plenty, 2004, which investigates anxiety and disillusionment in a post-9/11 America, with Williams in mind. 58. Kevin Thomas of the Los Angeles Times praised Wenders' thoughtful examination of the subject and noted Williams' screen appeal. 59. She received an Independent Spirit Award for Best Female Lead nomination for the film. 60. The actor next appeared in Imaginary Heroes, a drama about a family coping with their son's suicide, and played an impressionable young woman fixated on mental health in the period film A Hole in One. 61. 62. Williams returned to the comedy genre with The Baxter, in which she played a geeky secretary. The film received negative reviews. Wesley Morris of the Boston Globe wrote, "Only when Williams is around does the movie seem human, true, and funny. Even in her slapstick, there's pain." 63. 64. As with her other films during this period, it received only a limited release and was not widely seen. 65. 66. Her film breakthrough came later in 2005 when Williams appeared in Ang Lee's drama Brokeback Mountain, about the romance between two men, Ennis and Jack, played by Heath Ledger and Jake Gyllenhaal, respectively. Impressed with her performance in The Station Agent, the casting director A.V. Kaufman recommended Williams to Lee. He found a vulnerability in her and cast her as Alma, the wife of Ennis, who discovers her husband's homosexual infidelity. 67. The actor was emotionally affected by the story and, despite her limited screen time, she was drawn to the idea of playing a woman constricted by the social mores of the time. 22. Deeming her the standout among the cast, Ed Gonzalez of Slant magazine commended Williams for fascinatingly spiking Alma's unspoken resentment for her sham of a marriage with a hint of compassion for Ennis's secret suffering. 68. Brokeback Mountain proved to be her most widely seen film to that point, grossing $178 million against its $14 million budget, and she received a nomination for the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress. 69-70 Williams began dating Ledger while working on the film. 22 The couple cohabited in Boerum Hill, Brooklyn. 71 New York, and in 2005, she gave birth to their daughter Matilda. 67. 2006 to 2010, work with auteurs. Williams had 2 film releases in 2006. She first featured opposite Paul Giamatti in the drama The Hawk is Dying. 5 months after giving birth to her daughter, she returned to work on Ethan Hawke's directorial venture The Hottest State, based on his own novel. Leslie Fulperin of Variety found her role too brief. 72 Following the award season success of Brokeback Mountain, Williams was unsure of what to do next. After 6 months of indecision, she agreed to a small part in Todd Haynes's I'm Not There, 2007, a musical inspired by the life of Bob Dylan. 73 She was then drawn to the part of an enigmatic seductress named S in the 2008 crime thriller Deception. 874 The film, which co-starred Hugh Jackman and Ewan McGregor, was considered by critics to be middling and predictable. 75 In her next release, Incendiary, based on Chris Cleave's novel of the same name, Williams reteamed with McGregor to play a woman whose family is killed in a terrorist attack. A reviewer for The Independent called the film sloppy and added that Williams deserved better. 76. An upper body shot of a smiling Michelle Williams. Williams at the Berlin International Film Festival for the premiere of Shutter Island in 2010. Williams's 2 other releases of 2008 were better received. The screenwriter Charlie Kaufman was impressed with her comic timing in Dick and thus cast her in his directorial debut Synecdoche, New York, an ensemble experimental drama headlined by Philip Seymour Hoffman. 58 It was a box office bomb and polarized critics, although Roger Ebert named it the best film of the decade. 77 78 79 2 days after finishing work on Synecdoche, New York, Williams began filming Kelly Reichardt's Wendy and Lucy, playing the part of a poor and lonesome young woman traveling with her dog and looking for employment. 80 With a shoestring budget of $300,000, the film was shot on location in Portland, Oregon, with a largely volunteer crew. 80 Williams had just separated from Ledger and was relieved for the anonymity the project provided. 58 81 She was pleased with Reichardt's minimalistic approach and identified with her character's self-sufficiency and fortitude. 80 82 Sam Adams of the Los Angeles Times considered her performance to be remarkable not only for its depth but for its stillness, and Mick LaSalle commended her for effectively conveying a lived-in sense of always having been close to the economic brink. 83 84 Williams was filming in Sweden for her next project, Mammoth, 2009, when news broke that Ledger had died of an accidental intoxication from prescription drugs. 34-58 Although Williams continued filming, she later said, "It was horrible. I don't remember most of it." 7. In her first public statement, a week after his death, she expressed her heartbreak and described Ledger's spirit as surviving in their daughter. 85 She attended his memorial and funeral services later that month. 86 Mammoth was directed by the Swedish director Lukas Moodysson and featured Williams and Gael Garcia Bernal as a couple dealing with issues stemming from globalization. Her role was that of an established surgeon, a part she deemed herself too young to logically play. 73 In the same year, she co-starred with Natalie Portman in a Roman Polanski-directed faux perfume commercial called Greed. 87 For her next project, Martin Scorsese cast her opposite Leonardo DiCaprio in the psychological thriller Shutter Island. Based on Dennis Lehane's novel, it featured her as a depressed housewife who drowns her own children. The high-profile production marked a departure for her, and she found it difficult to adjust to the slower pace of filming. 88 In preparation, she read case studies on infanticide. 58 After finishing work on the film in 2008, Williams admitted that playing a series of troubled women coupled with her own personal difficulties had taken an emotional toll. She took a year off work to focus on her daughter. 58 88 Shutter Island was released in 2010 and was a commercial success, earning over $294 million worldwide. 89. Williams had first read the script for Derek Cianfrance's romantic drama Blue Valentine at age 21. When funding came through after years of delay, she was reluctant to accept the offer as filming in California would take her away from her daughter for too long. 1991. Keen to have her in the film, Cianfrance decided to shoot it near Brooklyn, where Williams lived. 91. Co-starring Ryan Gosling, Blue Valentine traces the tribulations faced by a disillusioned married couple. Before production began, Cianfrance had Williams and Gosling live together for a month on a stipend that matched their characters' income. This exercise led to conflicts between them, which proved conducive for filming their characters' deteriorating marriage. 92. On set, she and Gosling practiced method acting by improvising several scenes. 45. The film premiered at the 2010 Sundance Film Festival to critical acclaim. 93. The New York Times' reviewer A.O. Scott found Williams to be heartbreakingly precise in every scene and commended the duo for being exemplars of new method sincerity, able to be fully and achingly present every moment on screen together. 94. She received Academy Award and Golden Globe Award nominations for Best Actress. 95. 96. In her final film project of 2010, she reunited with Kelly Reichardt for the Western Meeks Cut-Off. Set in 1845, it is based on an ill-fated historical incident on the Oregon Trail, in which the frontier guide Stephen Meek led a wagon train through a desert. Williams starred as one of the passengers on the wagon, a feisty young mother who is suspicious of Meek. In preparation, she took lessons on firing a gun and learned to knit. 97. 98. Filming in extreme temperatures in the desert proved arduous for her, though she enjoyed the challenge. 98. Writing for the Arizona Republic, Bill Goody Kuntz praised the subtlety both in the film and in Williams's performance. 99. 2011 to 2016, My Week with Marilyn and Broadway. A photograph of Dow Gray Scott and Michelle Williams filming in character for My Week with Marilyn. Williams filming the part of Marilyn Monroe in My Week with Marilyn, 2011. Pictured with co-star Dow Gray Scott. In 2011, Williams portrayed Marilyn Monroe in My Week with Marilyn, a drama depicting the troubled production of the 1957 comedy The Prince and the Showgirl, based on accounts by Colin Clark, who worked on the latter film. Initially skeptical about playing Monroe, as she had little in